Hi. Back with some water. Yeah, so I'm gonna make an attempt to record some thoughts that are a kind of synthesis of many things that I've been contemplating, and also systems of thought that I've been integrating through experience for a few years, some of them many years, some of them just a few years, and lately in the last few days, a question has been popping up. Oh, and by the way, there's some noise in the background. I hope that that Zoom is not like differentiating it from this recording, but if you hear anything, there's some construction going on in the building behind me, so tough. So there's a question popping up in me in the last few days about service, the idea of service that I come across for many years now in the channel material called Law of One material, which is something like 30 years at least span of channel material, channeled over already, I think, 2 generations, which is very, in my eyes, has a lot of quality and merit to it, and has been very supportive of my experience, of my exploration of self-development, of spirituality. And I think if I ask who would benefit from this video, and I'll come back to the question in a while, but who would benefit from this video? I'm going to discuss a kind of synthesis that my mind is making with Law of One and systems of typing, and like Myers-Briggs and even Human Design, and my journey with them and my understanding of them, and the concept of, that's the question, the concept of service, that's a concept that is really, really central to the Law of One material. And the Ra contact and friends use that concept a lot. And I've been kind of grappling with that concept, and I'm gonna touch my my contemplations about that concept that are coming up, and my personal take on it, the way that I eventually am resolving it through my experience in my life. And this video will benefit some people who probably know Law of One, and also know one of the typing systems like Myers-Briggs or Human Design, and have some experience trying to use them as a development tool, or someone who doesn't know any of those but is still trying to understand how to exist and actualize their true self in the outward world, how to be myself in the world. Quite simply, it would be a bit hard to really understand my references if you don't know any of those, but you might get something out of it anyway, as a way of general direction, how to look on that topic of authentic living, actually. Yeah, that's the term. So the Love One material, they talk a lot about service to other and service to self. And then first, I would say, I think one of the reasons using those concepts of service to others and service to self, what I'm understanding right now is that it's a good way of explaining those through those two polarities, of taking the reader or the listener to the material, taking them to an understanding of what actually is love, the concept of love that they use a lot. You can get a sense of what love is through contemplating those concepts of service to self and service to other, because they are both love. They both stem out of what they call love. And they use the concept of love a lot, which I find not so useful for me, but either way, they're using it. And they're clearly, when you read the material deeply enough, you understand that they're not talking about what we call love, what humans tend to call love. It's not personal love. It's not any kind of interpersonal feeling, but it is a kind of it's a kind of a being. It's a kind of a level of existence that is really, really close to the source. Is really the one of the the main fundamental elements of existence, this love that they talk about. And when you use and try to understand the concepts of service to self and service to other, what you can come to understanding is that that whether you choose a path of goodwill towards others or goodwill towards yourself, it all leads to the same so-called love. So the universe and its source, they are accepting towards both paths of service to self and service to other, and that can give you a hint about what they call love is actually is, and that love is beyond wanting, if you serve yourself, it is because of love, that you love yourself. And if you serve others, including yourself, which is what the path of service to self actually is, like it doesn't exclude yourself, it includes everyone. Well, you're still like loving, and it's still about love. So what it says eventually is whatever you do here, even if you don't polarize to one of those paths, but stay in the sinkhole of indifference, still it's all about, everything is about love. You just didn't polarize enough. You didn't make a slight decision, whether, or extreme decision in the case of service to self, that you want to make kind of, well, a kind of effort towards evolution. And you're just like going with the flow, not trying to figure out any truth about yourself or about existence. You're just kind of winging it. I don't know how to say it, and I admit that my understanding is not complete about this issue at all. I'm just mentioning it because I think for me, taking those concepts of service to self, service to other, and trying to implement it on my own path has not served my well-being and sense of self-development so well. I'm glad I know the raw material. I'm glad, and those concepts are part of it, and I accept it. I accept it as like a pivotal ingredient inside those materials, but I can't say it was very helpful for me or very useful, and that I really took it on to try and be service to others, because, well, for many reasons, and because I think a main reason, or two main reasons, is one, my personality is one of being a very individual one, and very directed towards individuality and going against the flow. And in addition, maybe for the same reasons, I am quite introverted. So I think there's a special or unique perspective that I've developed in myself. It came about because of those elements in my personality, and coming against the raw material in terms of service to self, service to other, and the friction that's created there has created a kind of unique perspective about this topic, these concepts, and another angle of looking at it. And it's like I had to reconcile my love or my affinity to this channeled material with what I know from my own experience about myself and my own path and what's actually works for me, and trying to negotiate those two is bringing it about this perspective in this video, and trying to explain to myself how to synchronize everything in a harmonious manner that I can live with, that I can work with. Yeah. So what I'm going to say here is that, first of all, the way I'm thinking about service is that it's not a one size fit all paradigm. Service is, I'm thinking about service in terms of everyone, every person on earth has their own unique, very unique way of serving the whole. That's one thing, the unique element. And the unique element has to do with individuality, that us as humans are differentiated individuals eventually. So there's a kind of paradox in this issue of being a unique individuated individual human being that doesn't like mesh with acceptable society on the one hand, and on the other hand, serving the whole. Like eventually, after everything is said and done, being a unique individual, you still serve the whole in your unique way. So for me, the experience is that I had to differentiate myself from society enough to allow myself to be truly me, truly the individual that I am, and connect to a kind of inward compass, mainly through intuition, but also through clarity that arises by using that intuition in the world, and also clarity that arises from cultivating awareness, and like separating my awareness from all the voices and thoughts and feelings in my system, so that I can see clearly my conditioning, my social conditioning, and how it manages me, like from the inside, how it moves me from the inside, the places where I'm conditioned and act from agendas and thoughts that are not truly originally mine. So I had to like experience a process of, let's call it individuation, before I could truly experience doing my service to the world, living my authentic life, like serving authentically. So this is what it is becoming about. it's becoming to be more complex and less simplified than just saying, well, choose serving others or choose serving self. That sounds too simplified for me, because actually for me, the process which was seems to have been much more complicated. It was a process of differentiating or individuating from the conditioning of society, telling me to be this way or that, telling me how I should live my life, telling me what's important and what's not important in a person's life, what I should put emphasis on. For example, getting married and having children is a big one for many. What I should derive my self-worth from, you know? Society has a lot to say about that, and you get those messages implicitly and unconsciously. And I had to go through a kind of what is called in human design deconditioning process to remove from my psyche and come to awareness and removal of those conditionings from society, to actually understand and get wise and get access to what I'm really about, what this instrument, this body, mind, spirit instrument is really about, and how I can actually become not only active, but just a moment. Sorry, you have to close the windows. Not only become active, but effective in the world. Truly doing things in the world that I experience to be right and true to myself and effective for others. And so there's a few pointers that I'm coming to understand about those terms of service to self, service to others, that, as I said, it's not so simple. It's not so simplistic, not very clear cut as you would think. And that is why, as I said, this polarity, introducing it to someone as a tool of self-exploration, can be sometimes more confusing than helpful. And I'm not saying it as a criticism, because it's always good for me to have something to lean against. And whenever you give me material to grapple with, I can use it to figure out what, through trying to use it and experience it and embody it, I can eventually come up with what actually works for me and what actually is right for me and true for my own personality, system, and path. And that is what, because that is the way it worked for me, and that is the way that I'm working with stuff for years now. And it kind of proved itself eventually after quite a challenging experience for a few years, but it really paid off eventually, because I can really see how it works for me. Allowing myself to write, sort of speak, to write my own book and use all the systems that I take in. And I taking a lot of material from sources outside myself, but not like accept it at face value and just saying, okay, they probably know what they're talking about if they're talking about it. But taking things in, trying it on for size, and then seeing what actually works for me along a lot of time. And that paid off eventually. And I just would interject with human design that if you think about in terms of profile in human design, I'm a 3-5 profile, and so it would make sense that I would say that. So you can see how those systems actually are sometimes pretty good at pointing us to elements and I mean typing systems, to directions where to look for a way through and out of where we are to another place. And knowing that I'm a 3-5 profile is a good example in human design for it, because you see, I'm an experimenter. As a 3-5 profile is, I do learn through experience, and I can grapple with life to bring out the valuable experiences, things that actually work, and then I can share it with others, like the way that a 3-5 would, according to human design. So you can see how those systems are useful. But then one should, with any system, also love one material, human design, Myers-Briggs. One should, the bottom line for me, and the significant point I want to make is that one should take care and be cautious of taking things at face value and thinking that if someone seems or sounds very intelligent or creative or really logical, that they know everything that there is to know about you and how you should live your life. Rather, I recommend using those materials as launching pods, I don't know how to say it, leaning points where you can like come against and try things and see if they work for you. And then you can like figuratively write it down, truly write it down in your own book and say, this has worked for me, truly. And then you really are creating something, a path, a true path of your own unique way. So I want to mention some insights about service to others, because when I hear the word service to others, I kind of tend to think of it in a simplistic way as just doing for others, just externally acting in the world in a way that helps others. And this may sound like a simple sentence, but I came to see this sentence as having so many traps of understanding and perception in it. Because I said, acting in the outside world. Well, this is the first trap, the outside world thingy. And I'll explain later. And then I said, in a way that will help others. And this has so many traps in it because does it mean I just wait for others to tell me what I should do for them and then adhere to those requests? Is it this simple? Is this what it is about? Well, I say, no, it's not about that, because there's a lot of social conditioning going on around us. And people might have so many ideas about what you should do in life and in the world, and they might like express it as just do it for me, do it for the family, do it for the country. So if someone tells me that going to war or being a soldier is a good service, is that service to others? Well, maybe, but not for everyone, might not be for you, and not because someone told you to or asked you to. So, and this is just one sort of speak trap that's in there, in that sentence that I said. So again, the point is, how do I connect to my own inner compass enough so I can truly stand in my own path and live an authentic life? And then from there, what I'm suggesting is that service to others will naturally spring out of being authentic to yourself. So it might be so confusing, it might be so hard, because it really is challenging. It truly does take a long time for many of us to separate from all kinds of social influences enough to really embody what I said now about authentic living, living my authentic path, and then just allowing service, whatever service really uniquely fits myself, to spring out of that. It really is not so simple. It really does take time. So again, I think I'm saying it for the third time now. Service to others it's easy to say, not so easy to authentically do, you know? From where I'm sitting, you have to do it authentically. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth so much, and it can take you. The problem is it can take you, like, just trying to do it without connecting to something authentic within you. Might take you along very distorted paths, and well, you learn from that, I guess. And I'm not canceling anyone that's saying, no, service to others is the best concept there is. It's been the most useful to me. If you're saying that, all power to you. You know, I'm just expressing my own take on things. So some distinctions about service to others and how it won't necessarily look the way you would expect it to look. Well, I think it's not, when you say service to others, you might tend to think, well, it's something you can see outwardly. It's something external that someone can see. If I serve others, you can see it, you know? Like I'm helping the old woman cross the road. I'm aiding the crippled. I'm feeding the poor. It's something external. And it's something active in the world. I'm doing something to someone else, you know, the other, you know, I'm acting in concert with someone else. What I'm saying, not necessarily. I'm saying not necessarily. Why? Because for a few reasons. Because some of us are more actuantly. We're more introverted. We're less prone to put ourselves out there, and it's a natural tendency we have. And this is where I'm drawing on Myers-Briggs model, and it's true. I came to realize by taking the system in and observing my surroundings and myself, it's true. Like some of us are introverted, and we're less prone to go out and do stuff with other people. And our process is more inward and is more individual. We're more prone to seek. We're more prone to connect to ourselves. We won't be so very much attuned to what people ask us to do and what the surroundings requires to be done at one moment or the other, and we're more prone to connect to our inner truth. And this engenders a leaning towards a kind of passivity rather than activity, outward activity. There's a kind of sense of not acting out in the world. So does it mean that we don't serve? Does it mean that we're not, if we're not running worldwide feed the poor project, if we're not leading some movement, if we're not, I don't know, doing something grand scale outside or small scale outside, if we're just doing our spiritual practice, attuning very much to ourselves, if we're trying to understand who we are and what we want, is it not service? So I'm saying there's an active service, but there's also a passive service. For many of us, not doing a distorted, conditioned movement outwardly, not doing that is our contribution. Stepping back from life is our contribution, not being a part of the problem. Sometimes it's a contribution, you know? If you're sitting and you see like near you two people quarreling and getting into a physical fight, there's two kinds of, and those two people are part of your social circle and they're trying to encourage you to take part in this fight. What I'm saying is there are two kinds of service you can do in that moment. One is outwardly active. No, stop the fight and try to separate them. That is really, it looks very effective. It looks very active and it makes a good impression outwardly. But there's also, I'm saying, a more passive, more like Zen approach to that. You might just not participate, just not be part of the problem. Maybe contain your peaceful manner to you and just sit there peacefully. Maybe regulate yourself, try not to get too excited and not become a part of that bellicose activity. Are you not serving because you're not active, because you're not like being a big smart extrovert in the situation? I'm not sure at all. I'm not sure at all. I'm saying if that's what's natural to you, that's your service. And I think we should open up to including more passive, more receptive, more energetic, maybe, kinds of service. In this concept of service to others. Because if there's a person that lives a very social, active life, sometimes we tend to look at those people and say, oh, I'm that. I'm like, take it as a insult to our self-worth. But my question is, are you living your truth? Are you connected to your inner truth? That's the question for me that is central here. Not how does it look from outside? Because if you don't want to and you don't feel like being active outside and you feel more like sitting at home and doing meditation and doing sadhana, spiritual practice, and So you would naturally, like from that will stem naturally a behavior that is conducive to your environment, but still fits your introverted personality leaning. And then at one stage or another, you will feel like just from allowing yourself to be yourself, you will feel sometimes an impulse to develop certain aspects of your personality, activity, towards a more extroverted threshold, if you will. It will, like, development when you're accepting yourself. Self-development comes naturally. It flows naturally out of that. And you will, like, balance yourself out with more extroverted things that you want to do, that you feel like doing. And there you will bring that depth of introverted self-observation and cultivation. You will gently bring your gentle demeanor into a surrounding that is fitting to accept that transmission, to accept that energy into it. And you'll be doing what is correct for you to do as yourself, not pushing yourself to go very active and very external, because that is the way that we perceive service to others. In the same way, but from a slightly different angle, you can say that there's an initiating aspect of service to others, but there's also a kind of responsive way of doing service to others. It's a bit like what I said before about passive and active, but it's also different, slightly different. It adds another layer to it. What I mean is, you can just keep, like, thinking and imagining, or how can I bring about something new in my surroundings? How can I initiate things? But what I'm saying is, we're not all, for some of us it works, for some of us great, just it's congruent with the way that their personality is designed from birth. But for some of us, not at all. Maybe we're more introverted, as I said, or maybe in human design terms, we're not a manifestor. We're a generator of some sort, or projector, and we're just more of a responsive being. It's more natural for us. And I know for me, when I seem to initiate something, is probably because I was initiated into initiating from someone else. Someone asked me, or suggested it, or I met someone, and the combined energetic combination between us brought about this initiation. And most of the time, I just respond. I just respond not only in the way of creating new things in the world, but I just respond in a way that of not necessarily planning what I'm going to do, and just like flowing with life. And seeing what every moment brings to me and responding to that. So think about it as initiative quality and responsive quality. Also in serving others. Like, if I keep thinking, well, okay, so they say I should do service to others. I should think all the time how to serve others. That might be more of an initiative way of doing things. But if I just lean back a bit and just do my thing and do what I feel like and see what life brings me, what human design calls strategy and authority, for quite a few, like they say 70% of us, of doing life, of being responsive, just flowing with whatever I want to do, and then seeing what life brings me and responding with a yes or a no, so to speak. Like, do I want to accept this invitation? Do I want to reject this invitation? Do I feel this request is correct for me, or do I feel in my belly, no, this is not for my own energy? And using our intuition in that way of responding. What does life suggest to me, and what does my body and energetic system accept as valid to them through intuition? That is a responsive way of moving through the world that is not mentally doesn't move from mental arguments, more of an intuitive movement, more of an embodied movement in the world. And what I'm asking or saying is this not service to others? Because I'm responding and not going about it mentally and thinking about what service to others is in a very mental and polarized perception. Or is it that when I respond to what life brings me, I'm already more aligned with life itself and its needs and what actually is in front of me? And then do I not have the opportunity to synchronize more with reality? And what is reality if not the self, the big self, the grand self, whatever self, the whole self? So even when acting outwardly, even when interacting with reality outside, so to speak, ourselves, even when not meditating or, I don't know, something very introverted, even going about that interaction with the outer world, there's a more initiating, pushing way of doing it. And there's a more of a responsive, not so mentally attuned, more intuitive way of doing it. just seeing what the world asks of you, and then seeing what I have a response towards, authentic response, you know. And this does not exclude the possibility of serving others, because from my own personal experience with the human design experiment, when you allow yourself to do that for a while and just respond to whatever comes for you, you end up, well, many things happen, but one of the things that happened eventually is that you end up landing in your own authentic energy and being able to connect it in action to things that really are appropriate for it. You know, like if I have a natural tendency to cook, you know, and I like making food for others, if life brings me an opportunity, an invitation to do that, my own bodily energy will respond positively to that invitation, you know. But if I don't know, I don't have a tendency to be a politician or like bring children into the world, and I get an invitation to that, and I go for it because I think for some reason it's service to others, my authentic energy wouldn't be there to perform it, and it won't be an authentic movement towards life, and I probably would not be on my best energy and expression while doing those things, because I do not have a natural tendency to do it. So what is it, service to others? Is it stamping over our natural tendency? Is this what this is about? Just mentally saying to ourselves, I'm going to do this because this is service to others. Others asked me to do it, so I'm going to do it. Or is there in the middle between action or service and ourselves, is there a stage there of feeling into what my body and energy are really suitable for, and cultivating a connection with that sense of what they call in human design correctness? Is there in between between myself and my service, is there a stage of knowing to attune to my own personal GPS, what I want to do, what I don't want to do, what is suitable for me, what is not, what is actually my correct, authentic job, and what is someone else's job? Is there a stage there of intuitively connecting to a sense of that? And what I'm saying here, and this is being receptive, like responding to life's prompts from us in an authentic way. And I believe some people might be more of an initiator type. And in Myers-Briggs, for example, people that are thinking or feeling extroverts, like the FJs and TJs, with an extroverted tendency. They are very attuned to what society needs, to what people say, to what people feel about things. And they might be very like more of an initiating character, because they like tend to go outside and like very much adhere to what society thinks and needs. But the more introverted types, it might be more suitable to make a movement from their inner credo, their inner compass. What society says serves like as a secondary, what the society, what their surrounding feels, or the acceptable way of thinking about things is a more secondary ingredient in the way that they move in the world. So that's the way I land Myers-Briggs into like what I'm posing here is a more self-attuned service to other. And I do believe that for extroverts, it's simpler because they're more attuned to outward activity anyway. Introverted people with a leaning to introversion, they have it more complex, I feel. And the final pointer, which I wrote down, and I think I already talked about it quite a lot, but I want to make this distinction as well, is that I talked about an intuitive way of being in the world, an inner listening to what I think, what I feel, and what is correct for me. And the opposite of it is linear thinking. So to continue what I said before, linear thinking is like logical, is like being very being consistent with my thoughts and actions, and trying to be very being very linear, setting goals and getting to them. And this is a very Western, very masculine way of going about life, direction, that is very acceptable in Western society. And many of us are like having a lot of resistance trying to live like that. And again, it's very impressive when you talk about the concept of service to others, to watch people who set goals and have objective and they do stuff and they know where they're going, and they can tell you their objectives and goals. And you can see it and say, wow, this person is really service to others oriented. I need to be like that. But it's not, what I'm saying is it's not correct for all of us to try and act that way. Some of us are not designed to think and act. Maybe we can think in a linear way, in a systematic way, but we're not necessarily designed to act and go about life in a linear way. And it might, for those people, be hard to explain what is my service actually. Because not going about life in a linear way means that I'm responding. What life brings me, I'm checking in to see if I resonate with it, let's say, and then I'm responding yes or no. And I don't know what life will bring me an hour from now, a day from now, and a week from now. And thus, I cannot anticipate my line of action. I do not tend to so much plan in advance. Well, sometimes I do because I have clarity, but sometimes I don't. And for me, I had to allow myself to be responsive and to like dip myself in a lot of unknowing and a lot of moving from moment to moment. And until I learned to accept that aspect of myself, that in many ways, not in everything, not in all subjects or topics in my life, but in many ways, what I really love to do is flow with life, and really respond from an authentic place when life comes towards me. And I can't say I could really go for that in every respect in my life, because sometimes it's frightening to flow that way. It can be just anxiety inducing to not set any direction. But what I really love sometimes is to not know where I'm going, or to have a limited knowing, or a temporal knowing of, well, I'm doing this right now, but I don't know what I will do a year from now, and just letting myself have this freedom. I've learned to really allow that, because it really contributes my well-being. And eventually, as I said before, who's to say that if I'm in a place of balance, well-being, and a kind of serenity with myself, that I'm not serving others by being that. And I learned through time that allowing myself to flow that way, not necessarily setting goals, and just following what you would call just following your bliss, following my bliss, following my responses, my authentic responses to life. Eventually, I've learned to see how it introduces a lot of synchronicity into my life that shows me how I get to be in the right place at the right time. And whenever I have doubts whether I'm at the right place and the right time, life kind of secretly but very clearly indicates for me you're at the right place at the right time. Just look at this, look at that synchronicity. You had to be here to experience that. So there's a kind of dance, a kind of flow that if you try to take service to others in a very rigid mental way, you'll miss that flow. You'll miss that path of synchronized movement. You might not be so much experiencing well-being while trying to mentally make yourself seem like you're very active in a very service to others way while doing things that are not natural to you. So that's the difference between moving intuitively, like flowing intuitively from moment to moment, at least to some extent in life, and opposite to a very linear way of thinking, like trying to be consistent in one direction and calling that like that's my service to others. Look how servy I am, you know? So all that I'm saying here about what I said, it's written here. So I'm looking here down about allowing a more, allowing ourselves to be more like a passive version of service to others. Maybe just doing my sadhana, maybe just breathing and walking the earth is an authentic being. Maybe it's spreading waves, energetic waves of influence without anyone knowing, without any clear outward indication, allowing for that possibility of just being authentic, being myself, and living my own small life is service enough for some periods or for my whole life or in some fields of my life. Maybe it's service enough to impact people and surrounding. Maybe I'm serving as an example of authenticity, of self-acceptance, of individuality in the face of conditioned asleep society. Maybe that's enough, you know, allowing the possibility of the passive way of service, or maybe a more responsive way of serving is okay. Maybe we don't have to initiate. Maybe we can just respond to what life is bringing to us. And maybe we can respond authentically and still it's not selfish. Because if you give what you authentically have in your body, in your system, in your makeup, energetic makeup, if you authentically respond, then you really give your gift. You don't give what you think, the gift that you think you're supposed to give to others. And So that's the difference between responsive and initiating. And maybe even allowing yourself not to think linearly, not to have a big headline of this is my service, this is what I do this. Not always, maybe for sometimes, but sometimes not. Maybe you do this now, today, and tomorrow you don't want to do it anymore. Does it mean that you stop serving others, life, God? No. It means that you're allowing, if water would try to just flow in the river like that, I'm not sure that they would flow at all. Some people find it easier to set goals and then go for them. It's like it's naturally their design, mental design, cognitive function, leading cognitive function, dominant cognitive function, and that's Myers-Briggs lingo. But then water naturally flows like this. Cha, 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 cha. The water is not aware of flowing straight. No one's flowing straight when they're water, usually, unless there's a really big pressure behind them. But in nature, in rivers, if you ask the water, are you flowing straight? Is it a linear path? They say, are you kidding me? What's linear? Explain linear, Does it mean they don't flow? Does it mean they don't have impact? Ask the stone in the river, does the water have impact on you? Does it make you round? Does it make you smooth? So that's a metaphor for our own life path. The fact that we go like this in an unorderly, wavy fashion does not a general impact to our movement. And by the opposite, it's authentic. Being natural is what makes it authentic, So I may seem really persuaded by this, but actually, it's just a posture I put on sometimes for some reason. I'm not persuaded about anything. It's just my thoughts in the current moment. If you think about it, I'm just realizing when you say current, what's going on right now is current. Current is also the current of the river, the current of the water. So current is also current, the flow. And you have to be true to the current to flow with your own current, So that's something that came up. And I'm not feeling persuaded at all in anything. This is just my own current contemplation about stuff. And I thought of bringing that to you if I publish it. And I'm done. I'm done. So, yeah. Have fun, comment. If you want, I'm here. See you. Thank you. See you.